But for now, we're going to talk about stock up, stock down in the Big Ten. Whose stock is rising? They talk about playing for championships in November, and some of these teams right now are pushing into that championship mode. Now, some of them are not pushing into that championship mode, but we'll start with the Michigan Wolverines. 3 wins in a row. Is their stock truly up, or is this kind of a fool's gold situation?
I'm cautiously optimistic about my Wolverines because, again, they have not played against great competition. Their wins have been over Minnesota, Rutgers, Maryland. Those have been their last 3 impressive wins, really. But listen, they've been running the ball well. They've been controlling the ball. Brandon Peters, again, you don't need him to be a world beater. You just need him to be a game manager and not turn the ball over. But again, we'll know more about what Michigan really is against Wisconsin and, of course, in the game against Ohio State.
Well, we're all looking forward to that one. And starting with the Wisconsin game, just sticking on Michigan for 1 second, do you think that they've shown enough from Brandon Peters at quarterback that they're going to have a balanced offense when they go up against that stout Wisconsin defense this week?
They're going to have to because I can tell you one thing for sure. Wisconsin is going to stack the box. They're going to try to make Michigan a one-dimensional team. They're going to make Brandon Peters and Jim Harbaugh and that offensive staff throw the ball. So Jim Harbaugh and his brain trust, Drevno and Pep Hamilton and all those guys that sit in the offensive meeting room, they're going to have to come up with more ways, clever ways to get the ball into their playmakers. Of course, Karan Higdon is hurt. We don't know if we'll have him back. We don't know if we'll have Ty Isaac back. I mean, we literally down to our 2 running backs. So we're going to have to see what's going to happen with this Michigan offense.
Another team that stock is rising at this time of the season, and we seem to make this kind of comment every year, is Northwestern and Pat Fitzgerald and the job that he does, admittedly in that Big Ten West, but getting the most out of the least when it comes to the talent that he puts out there on the field.
Listen, Northwestern they are known as the cardiac cats, right? They're always winning games in overtime. They're always winning games that they probably shouldn't win, and they're always fighting. They're always there on the cusp. Pat Fitzgerald, I mean, he's about as solid as a coach there is in the Big Ten. He knows what he has. He recruits to what his team is, to what his university philosophy is. They recruit high character guys, and they get the most out of them.
Do you think that if Pat Fitzgerald was to leave Northwestern, go to another program in the Big Ten or somewhere else in the country, could he keep that up, or is it something specific just about what he has right there in Evanston with Northwestern?
I think wherever Pat Fitzgerald goes, he's going to be successful. And I see him at an institution that is very similar to what Northwestern brings, which is great academics, high character, as well as a good football program. That's the kind of institution I see Pat Fitzgerald at. But he will be successful no matter where he goes because he's going to recruit the caliber of kids that have a great balance of work ethic and as well as football IQ. So he could be successful wherever he goes.
One more thing before we move on to stock down. Do you ever think Pat Fitzgerald leaves? I mean, his stock we're talking about stock up and stock down. His stock might have been higher than it is right now, but I mean, he always could make that jump if he wants to. Do you think he ever leaves?
I don't think he ever leaves. I think Pat Fitzgerald is the Bill Snyder for Northwestern. I think he'll be there well into his 60s until he wants to leave. I think he's happy in Evanston. I think he likes what he has, what he's built. And I think Northwestern, their administration, I think they like what they have in Pat Fitzgerald. Listen, I think Northwestern, when they look at their football program, it's all about consistency, it's all about high character, and it's all about competing. And I think they do that on a consistent basis. They may not win a lot of Big Ten championships, but what they do is they do it well.
Now, I'm not trying to start any of these coaching carousel rumors or anything like that, but there may be a job opening at Nebraska in the not so near future.
I think that job
or
is
the
open
not so
now.
far future.
I think that job is open now.
Accepting candidates there under the new athletic director. But talk about stock down and Nebraska. I think that my statistic is correct on this. The 54 points they gave up to Minnesota, I want to say, is the most points they've ever given up in a conference football game, which is just astounding when you look at that graphic right there. Nebraska 4-6, 6 losses, 3-4 in Big Ten play. It's just odd to see that for Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, again, Nebraska, a storied, historic program. to see them fall to where they are today is baffling because they still recruit well. They're still always in the top as far as recruiting rankings. So it's just baffling to see them struggle as much as they have. The only thing that I can think of is, again, coaching carousels hurt programs. And when you're switching coaches in and out every 3 years, there's you give your program no ability to have stability. So, Mike Riley, I think his time is pretty much done. There's a young quarterback at UCF, quarterback coach and head coach in Scott Frost. I really think he's the guy that they should go after.
Well, and he's certainly got that Nebraska track record and the pedigree of offense that I think would be exciting to a lot of Cornhusker fans if they could get a guy like that on board. Two-part question for you in Nebraska before we move on. First off, would they be in better shape under Bo Pelini if he was still there? And second of all, was it doomed to fail with Mike Riley due to his age and his style and the type of recruiting links that he had or didn't have to that part of the country?
I think Bo Pelini is somewhere smiling. I think I said that last week. I think Bo Pelini is somewhere laughing at how things have turned out. I do think they would have been better off under Bo Pelini. Again, when you're switching coaches like that, you take the stability away from your program. And let's face it, Bo Pelini wasn't necessarily doing a bad job. I mean, he still had a winning record while he was at Nebraska. He has some issues, obviously, with fan engagement, right? He got into a couple things with that. And
that was very diplomatically phrased, by the way.
I try.
Issues with fan engagement.
I try my best to be diplomatic like that. But again, I think the program would have been better off. They would have kept Bo Pelini, but he ruffled some feathers, and unfortunately, things happen. But now Mike Riley comes in. Do you give him enough time to really get the program the way he wants it? And unfortunately, I think his record is 16-13 or something like that. It's just not good. Not good enough for Nebraska standards.
I want to correct myself on one thing. It wasn't under certainly the current administration in Nebraska, but it was part of that coaching carousel. Bill Callahan, the coach, they gave up 70 points to Colorado in a Big 12 game. So that statistic was incorrect about the most in a conference game. I think it might have been most in a Big 10 game then, if I'm not mistaken. And we talked about Michigan's stock being up. Maybe their stock goes up at the expense of Maryland's stock, who has gone down, although maybe due to injury since that season opening victory over Texas. Do we really think that Maryland's stock is down legitimately, or is it more so that they've had some key employees, as it were, been laid off due to injury, so to speak?
You know what? I think it's due to injuries, really. I mean, they're down to their fourth or fifth string quarterback. I think they're probably holding quarterback tryouts right now as we speak. It's really been due to their injuries, and I think it's really hard to kind of judge what Maryland could have been because they had an excellent quarterback in Taysom Hill. They had, even his backup was a really good quarterback. So once you lose that kind of stability, and now you're playing your fourth and fifth quarterback. Right now, at that point, you're just trying to hold on to the rest of your season. You're just trying to stay alive, and you're just trying to look forward to the future, not really about how you're going to end this season.
Before we move on, talk a little bit about Saquon Barkley coming up here on Atlanta 10 Live. I do want to stick on one thing on Maryland. Do you agree with me that DJ Durkin is going to work there, that that's a good fit for them? He's a good recruiter. He's an offensive guy. That's an area that's fertile in the country for high school football. I think that's a good choice to be their head coach.
Yeah, I agree. I think DJ Durkin has found a home in Maryland. Again, like you said, it's a great recruiting footprint. A lot of talent in the D.C. area, and I think he's in a situation where the administration really believes in him. They like what he brings to the table. He's energetic. He energizes the fan base. He energizes his players. I think it's a really good fit for Durkin to stay there and not necessarily be enticed by that job opening in Florida.